Kaley Cuoco's Big Bang Theory spin-off update makes young Sheldon finale's flash-forward more frustrating. For fans of The Big Bang Theory, Kaley Cuoco's Penny has always been one of television's most iconic characters, smart, sarcastic, and capable of keeping up with the world's quirkiest scientists. Over the years, her journey has captivated audiences, culminating in a finale that left fans both satisfied and yearning for more. Meanwhile, Young Sheldon, the prequel that explores the childhood of Sheldon Cooper, has leaned heavily on foreshadowing and narrative hints, threading connections to its parent series with clever callbacks. But recent developments in Cuoco's spin-off news have complicated how fans view one of the most tantalizing storytelling choices in Young Sheldon's finale, the Flashforward. The Young Sheldon finale was already ambitious. After years of chronicling the neurotic brilliance of a young Sheldon Cooper, the show finally gave fans a glimpse into the future. Flashing forward decades, viewers saw Sheldon's adult life, his triumphs, struggles, and, crucially, the relationships that define him. Among these was a brief, teasing glimpse of a woman who could be Penny. The show never explicitly confirmed her identity, leaving it ambiguous and sparking debate across fan forums and social media. Was it a clever nod? A misdirect? Or a deliberate tease, one that sets up an intersection with the original series that might never materialize? Then came the news about Kaley Cuoco's new spin-off project. While details remain sparse, the confirmed update that she is spearheading her own show, exploring a contemporary narrative apart from the Big Bang Theory, suddenly reframed the finale flash-forward in a frustrating light. The crux of the issue is timing. If Penny exists in her own narrative universe now, largely independent of the events in Young Sheldon, the possibility of a seamless, canonical crossover diminishes. That fleeting flash-forward moment, once a thrilling Easter egg, now feels like a dangling carrot, tantalizing but impossible to bite. It's worth dissecting why this is so vexing for fans. Young Sheldon has consistently relied on intertextuality, the deliberate weaving of connections back to the original series, to reward long-term viewers. From subtle character mannerisms to foreshadowed career achievements, these breadcrumbs make the prequel more than a standalone story. They turn it into a living extension of a beloved universe. The flash-forward in the finale was, arguably, the pinnacle of that effort. It promised a tangible, emotional connection to Penny without having to force her onto the screen as a child character. It allowed the story to acknowledge her significance to Sheldon's life without undermining the prequel's temporal setting. Now, the update on Cuoco's spin-off introduces a paradox. Television logic, even in the age of multiverses and reboots, thrives on internal consistency. If Penny is now firmly in a contemporary narrative, separate from Sheldon's prequel verse, then the flash-forward becomes a narrative tease that can't logically resolve. This isn't just a minor frustration. It transforms a carefully constructed storytelling device into an almost cruel form of narrative misdirection. Fans can no longer reasonably speculate about the identity of the woman in the flash-forward. Every theory feels tentative, because the show itself might not ever reconcile it with the new spin-off. Moreover, the timing of Cuoco's project amplifies the frustration. When the flash-forward aired, audiences were primed to assume that any potential crossover or reveal was still feasible. Writers could have included subtle hints, knowing that the narrative could eventually justify them in a canonical way. Now, with Cuoco's narrative trajectory likely taking precedence, those hints are stranded in a narrative limbo. The flash-forward remains as tantalizing as ever, but the payoff may never come. The emotional resonance of the finale, so heavily reliant on this imagined continuity, is diminished by the weight of real-world production decisions. There's also a psychological aspect at play. Fans of long-running series develop a form of emotional investment in continuity, treating narrative coherence as a form of respect for their engagement. The flash-forward, in essence, was a promise. The writers were saying, "We know you care about these characters, and we're going to reward you with a glimpse of their future." But Cuoco's spin-off complicates the promise. The narrative payoff is no longer guaranteed. The flash-forward is now an artifact of a pre-spin-off world, a story beat that might have existed in a vacuum if television production timelines had been different. Interestingly, this tension mirrors broader challenges in franchise storytelling. Across Hollywood, long-running shows and cinematic universes are increasingly reliant on interconnected narratives. The appeal is obvious. Viewers get rewarded for engagement across multiple properties. But the complexity multiplies when actors and creative talent branch into independent projects. Kaley Cuoco's spin-off is a testament to her star power and narrative draw, yet it also illustrates a key challenge. Maintaining inter-series continuity becomes exponentially harder when characters' trajectories are no longer governed by a single creative universe. From a narrative perspective, the Flashforward's frustration is compounded by the nature of Sheldon's character. He is the ultimate embodiment of foreshadowing and pattern recognition. Fans love Sheldon because his life is governed by rules, structure, and logical progression. Yet, the finale's Flashforward, now clouded by Cuoco's spinoff, undermines this very principle. The certainty that fans associate with Sheldon's story is disrupted by external production realities. It's almost ironic. The young boy who thrives on predictability now has an adult life that might hinge on variables beyond his and the writer's control. This isn't to say that the Flashforward is without merit. In fact, its ambiguity was always part of its charm. The brief glimpse of a future connection invites speculation, encourages community discussion, and keeps the young Sheldon fandom active. Yet, the update on Cuoco's spinoff does shift the nature of this speculation. It changes the question from "who is she?" to "will we ever know?" It transforms a narrative mystery into a meta-mystery about television production itself. In this sense, the finale becomes a mirror of fan anxiety. Just as viewers obsessively track continuity, the creators must navigate an evolving television landscape where real-world constraints influence narrative coherence. Some might argue that this frustration is a natural consequence of long-running series branching into spin-offs. After all, no franchise can fully anticipate every career move or creative decision of its actors. Yet the difference here is the emotional stakes. The Flashforward wasn't merely a cameo or a joke. It was an emotionally resonant beat meant to validate years of investment in Sheldon's story. The fact that it now hovers in uncertainty adds a layer of dramatic irony. The audience is more aware of the creative dissonance than the characters themselves, heightening the sense of narrative tension without payoff. In a broader cultural sense, this scenario reflects the modern television era's tensions between continuity and autonomy. Actors, writers, and producers increasingly have the agency to launch independent projects, which is undeniably positive for creative diversity. But for fans, these decisions can ripple backward, complicating the enjoyment of earlier works. The young Sheldon finale is now emblematic of this dynamic, a piece of storytelling that was perfectly coherent at the time of its creation, but one whose significance is altered by later developments. It's a fascinating, if somewhat frustrating, example of how television is no longer just about the narrative within the frame, it's about the ecosystem surrounding it. So where does this leave the audience? For some, the ambiguity might enhance engagement. Fans can speculate endlessly, debating whether the Flashforward character was intended to be Penny or simply a symbolic nod to what might have been. For others, however, the frustration is unavoidable. The emotional payoff, long anticipated, may never align with viewers' expectations, leaving the Flashforward as a bittersweet reminder of narrative potential unfulfilled. It's a tension that mirrors Sheldon's own life.